Hello everybody. In this video we're going to review some techniques that we can use to easily organize assets in our scenes in iClone. So to begin, I'm going to go to my Sets tab, which is the one with the little tree icons on it. We'll go to Prop, and we'll just take a look at some of these various examples that we have of 3D blocks. So I'll just bring a bunch of these into my scene, and we'll just arrange them, in the environment, putting them in various different positions in our environment so that we can see what we can easily do with them. Okay, so we have these objects arranged on all three axes in various different positions on X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go to my Scenes tab, and I'm going to select all of these objects here. And I'm going to come over here to this tool that will allow us to align them relative to one another. So let's see what they do. I'll go ahead and select that tool, Align Objects. It's the Align Objects tool. And what you'll see is that we can align them along the x-axis, so that they're all lined up on that axis. We can align them on the y-axis or on the z-axis. Or, of course, we can align them on all three, but that will put them all right on top of one another. As you can see, if I align them on the X and the Z, we can line them up very conveniently in a line here. We'll go ahead and say OK to complete that operation. I'm going to go ahead and rearrange these once again in a somewhat random order. Actually, if I grab, you can see that this is very convenient, that you can move it on individual axes at one time by grabbing the arrows. However, if you grab these squares here, you can also move it on two axes. For instance, if I grab it on this cyan colored square here, it's going to move it on both the Z and the Y at the same time. But not on the X, which is the red arrow, or this yellow box here, or rather yellow square, will move it on the X and the Y axis, or if I grab this magenta one, it will move it on the X and the Z axis. If I grab it right in the middle, doesn't really allow me to do that, so it appears that actually you really need to either move objects on one axis or on two axes at one time. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just move these somewhat randomly around my environment so that they're no longer aligned with one another. And we can take a look at how they're arranged. Here they are. Let's go ahead and bring a character into our scene. And we'll align these objects to the character. So the tool that we looked at previously is this one here, but this one right next to it will align it to the object that we select. So it's a way that we can take one object and align everything else to that object. To demonstrate this, I'm going to go ahead and select all of these three-dimensional forms that we have in our scene here. And I currently don't have the character selected, just so you know. But if we go to that Align To tool, what we can do is we can select the character, which is what we're going to be aligning everything to, and then we can choose once again the axis that we want to align them. So we can select either the x-axis, the y-axis, or the z-axis. Or of course we can select any combination of these three axes. So by aligning them on the x and the y, for example, it makes the objects appear as if they're stacked up on top of one another. Or if we align them on the x and the z, it looks like they're forming a line. Let's see how we can use these tools to create something that we might want to have in our scene here. For instance, let's say that we want to construct a table. So I'll go once again to my content here, back to set, and we'll look for some of these 3D blocks that we can use perhaps to make a table. I'm going to select the podium, I think, and maybe I'll drag one of these podium pieces in here, perhaps this one, and then we'll find something that would make a good tabletop for this. Let's see what we can find here. Perhaps, let's see what we can find. We'll use the cylinder. So I'll go ahead and drag one of these cylinders in here. So we have these two objects here. We'll go ahead and scale this one like this to make it the tabletop. And we can place it on top of this object here. Now, this would be a little bit difficult if we were just kind of placing it and having to rotate this 3D scene to situate it properly. So let's see how we can use some of these align tools to accomplish this a little bit more quickly. I'm going to go ahead and select what is going to be my tabletop, the cylinder. I'll use my Align To tool, and we'll go ahead and select this other three-dimensional form, which will be the base for our table. And now we just need to find the two axes that we need to align them to. So in this case it is the x and the y. We can go ahead and say OK, and then I'll go ahead and just drag this tabletop up, maybe scale it down a little bit. And here is our table. So this can be a convenient way to create additional props that you can use in your 3D scenes in iClone. Now, another thing that we can do perhaps to make this table a little bit easier to work with would be parenting. So currently I can move the tabletop and I can move the base, but they're simply stacked on top of one another. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the cylinder, the tabletop. In fact, we could even rename this. And we'll call the other one maybe table base. So tabletop and table base. And I'm going to select my tabletop, and I'm going to make it a child of the table base here. So with the tabletop selected, in my Modify panel, we'll simply go to Attach, Pick Parent. We'll pick the parent, which is going to be the table base. And now, when we select that table base, you'll see that, in fact, it moves as a single object. In fact, you'll also notice here in our scene that the tabletop has been nested under the table base. So this is a very convenient way where you can take some of those three-dimensional forms and extend the objects, the assets that you can populate your 3D scenes with, because you can construct them through creatively using the various three-dimensional forms available in iClone. Let's take a look at a few more options that will help us to arrange the objects in our scenes more conveniently. So what I'm going to do is come over here to Content. Again, I really do strongly recommend checking out all the different 3D block meshes that you have available here, because you really can use them creatively to construct things in iClone. But the one that I'd like to focus on actually is under this category, Wall and Floor. And you'll see that we have a door, a floor, and various walls. Walls with a door opening in it, a door and a window, two windows, and so on. And we can, of course, easily bring these into our scene here. And we can situate them anywhere in our 3D environment that we want. But let's see how we can use some of the tools in iClone to make the task of creating rooms and interior spaces easier. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and we'll go ahead and create a room. We can start with, let's start with this wall here, this plain wall. We'll go ahead and just bring it into the environment. Currently, it's right on top of our character. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit, Preference, and what I want to point out to you are some tools here that are very helpful for arranging objects in your scene. For instance, we've got the grid, which we can show and hide, and we can also, as you can see, adjust the units of our grid. And this can be very convenient for placing objects in your 3D scenes. Another thing that we have in here within the preferences are some tools that will allow us to easily situate the objects in our scenes. And the ones that I want to look at in particular are these two here, the Snap to Grid and the Snap to Model. Take note also that there are some hotkey combinations for this. We've got Control W to toggle on and off the Snap to Grid, and we've got the Control M for Snap to Model. Let's take a look at Snap to Grid first. I'll go ahead and enable that, and we'll check out how this works. So we've got our wall here, and you'll notice that now when I move this wall, it moves in kind of jumps from these different positions of the grid, and this can make working with these segments a lot easier. I'll go ahead and create another wall here. We'll rotate this wall 90 degrees, and we can situate it also using this grid. These tools will allow us to quickly and easily create, in this case, an interior environment. A tool that is even more useful for creating these interior environments is also found in the preferences here, but rather than using the Snap to Grid, we'll use the Snap to Model here. Let's check that one out. I think to more easily see this room, we'll go ahead and switch our view to a top view. Now, with the Snap to Model tool, what you'll notice is that as I select these, I can move it, and you'll notice how it actually very conveniently snaps to these wall pieces here. I'm going to take my table maybe and just move it over a little bit more into this 3D space here. And we'll go ahead and continue constructing this room here. So I'm going to go ahead and add, we can add one of these walls with 2 windows. Go and just drag it in here. And again, you'll notice that with that Snap to Model tool, it makes it really convenient, really easy to just snap these pieces together to very quickly and easily form a room. So here's our room now. Let's go ahead and check it out. We can perhaps select our character and focus on the character's face here. Maybe zoom out a little and we can rotate around and you'll see that our character is in this interior space now. So perhaps this room is a bit tight. Maybe we want to make it a little bigger. Let's go ahead and extend the room by adding more pieces to it. Go ahead and take this wall and drag it over here, and we can go ahead and just extend it by adding some more pieces to it. Go back to our content, and we can pick a couple more of these walls and drag them in here. And easily snap them into place. Which will, of course, will create a larger room. So now that we've created the walls for our room, perhaps I'll go ahead and put a floor in here as well. And we'll take a look just very briefly at a few more things that we can do to this 3D interior environment that we've created. We'll switch over to another tab now. We'll switch over to the Media tab here. And just take a very quick look at some materials that we can place on these assets, on these walls, floors, etc. So we've got a number of different assets here, obviously, everything from bricks to concrete to glass, and we can apply these to our table, we can apply it to the walls. I recommend exploring and experimenting with these different assets. For instance, we could try this stone, I suppose, or pick one of these stone textures and apply it to the base of our table if we want. We could try the glass for the tabletop, I suppose. Or marble, maybe. Maybe we'll try marble. We could try marble for both the base and the top of our table. And we could try some other materials for the walls and the floor as well. Play around with these and find out which ones work for your needs. So if we want a wooden floor, we could put the wood texture on here. Here's what it looks like right now. Maybe not the right choice. Looks like a very rough piece of wood, but we could explore some of these other options as well. One other thing I would suggest is, after applying the material, to adjust its UVs and its UV tiling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the materials in the modify. Here is the texture here, it's got both a color map and a reflection map here. So it's actually got this, it's faking reflection here, and you can see kind of what it's reflecting. Looks like an interior coffee shop scene, perhaps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the UV settings and to tiling, and we could just try some other numbers here to see if we get a better result. And there's what we have right now. I think I'll explore some of the other options, however, that we can also find in these materials. Perhaps for the floor we could do something like this, this tile, and drag that on there. This is still using the tiling of 12 and 12 that I said a little earlier, and I think that works pretty well for this floor. Now we could start looking at what we want to do for the walls. Perhaps rather than these tiles here, maybe I'll actually go with something a little bit more industrial, like this concrete texture here for the floor. And then I think what I'll do is, we can try this other concrete as well, see if we like that more. And perhaps try something like the brick texture on the walls. I'll simply drag it on there. And the bricks look a little off. They look a little bit large perhaps, but not a big deal. We can come in here and select these different walls, go to its materials property, and we can adjust its tiling as well. Find a number that looks appropriate. In this case, I think I'll go with something 8 and 8 looks pretty good. Maybe we'll try 6 and 6 though. And I think I like that a little bit better. Let's go ahead and actually one thing you'll notice is that the bump map doesn't seem to work well right now with the brick, but that's a quick and easy fix. It would be a little bit tedious if we had to select the bump map here. By selecting the bump map, you'll see that it's still only tiling 1 and 1, but if we click on the brick, it's tiling 6 and 6. However, if we lock the ratio, or not lock the ratio, sorry, if we affect all channels, then that will make the other maps, in other words, the bump, the roughness, and so on, tile as well. So let's go ahead and say affect all channels. And that did not appear to work. So I think that the issue was simply a refresh problem. Let's try that again. I'll go to check the affect all channels. As you can see, it's still using the improper tiling for my bump map, as well as for the other channels that are on there. But if we just come in here now and we change these numbers, it'll kind of wake it back up. And now the bump map is lining up perfectly with the color map, and we should probably go ahead and do the same to these other walls. We'll go ahead and just apply the same values to those as well. And here we have our room. So I think that should just about do it for this video. It's just a couple quick and easy techniques that can help you more easily place objects in your scene, to align them and to arrange them. And then we also took a very quick look at how we could apply some materials to these objects that we've arranged in our scene. In particular, we took a look at the 3D blocks. We very quickly just looked at some of the different options within here, but really focused on the wall and floor options. And by creatively using those and arranging them, you can create lots of different interior spaces. Anyway, I hope that this video has been helpful for you, and thank you for watching.